What is up YouTube, it's Dr. Zora helping cure you from being a noob. Patch 0.50 has just come out and it has some fantastic updates that will change the way you play. Make sure to check out the patch notes for yourself, but we're going to delve into the most important changes that were made and how you can adapt to them. If this helps you out, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your own thoughts on the patch. Let's get into it.
Die-line with the boom pow. Every week now I switch to a new sound. 212s in the back just blew out. Everything I do end up in a news now. Yeah, lead a cloud with a few now.
Jumping right into it, the biggest update they made is with the walking accuracy when transitioning from a run to stop. When you shoot in Valorant, you usually want to be still so you can be the most accurate, and the trade-off when you do this is you're a relatively easy target to hit. What was happening prior to this patch is when you run and stop, you could actually shoot a few milliseconds earlier before you completely stop, and this was a big advantage as you could be nearly 100% accurate while still looking like you're moving. This frustrated a lot of players that would complain that they were dying from a full moving player. That's been fixed now, so when you get shot, the enemy should be standing still and you can engage in them fair and square. To add on to that, walking accuracy has also been slightly nerfed. The base walking accuracy has decreased from 0.6 degrees to 0.8 degrees. I know a lot of more experienced players are upset about the walking accuracy, but it looks like it's here to stay, and Riot has realized that it's a little overpowered and requires less skill per se than coming to a complete stop and shooting like that. This seems to be a continued area of discussion, so we'll see how this nerf pans out and how effective it is on making walking accuracy a little less useful. Coming up next is the rifle recovery time. This is huge and Riot has done a huge change to this. When you fire a rifle and stop shooting, there's a fraction of a second that you have to wait for the recoil to reset. It looks like they've reduced this on all the rifles. It was originally around 0.4 seconds to 0.55 seconds, and now it's been going up to around 0.35 seconds for all the rifles now, and this is a huge change. Rifle recoil can get pretty crazy at the later stages of the spray. It seems like Riot is adamant about making players tap and burst more, and with this decreased recovery time, you'll be able to do that faster and more efficiently. I said this before in my rifle guide, if you want to be really efficient, you want to rely more on the initial burst rather than holding down mouse 1 through the entire 25 to 30 bullet clip, as the spray gets pretty wild towards the later half of the recoil. This change will reward more taps and bursts, which is useful for more close range fights where you eliminate one player and you need to quickly switch targets to another player, but also is effective for long range where you may want to tap or burst fire, hide, let the recoil reset, and then tap and burst again if you didn't get them the first time. Agent updates. Now these are some big changes that Riot has put and is going to change how these agents play out. First up is the big one, Sage. Her slow orb duration has decreased from 9 seconds to 7 seconds, and the amount that it slows you has also decreased from 65% down to 50%. I think these are some pretty good changes overall. Sage's role has always been to be the support for the team and trying to stall the enemy as much as possible, and Riot is adamant about keeping that role for her. Originally, her abilities would just delay for far too long, and yes, this is coming from a Sage main, so I'm a little disappointed, but I do understand the changes. With the reduction in her slow along with the added nerf to her wall in previous updates, I think Sage is still going to be the best staller in Valorant like Riot intends her to be, but she's now nerfed enough so that she's not going to be a complete annoyance and being able to single-handedly stall a team from pushing. Coming up next is Cypher. Now this was actually a very big surprise for me, but I do get it. Riot has decided that the Cypher cage will no longer slow enemies that move through it. I personally do believe that the cage was originally a little overpowered in the sense that it blocks your vision, it slows you down, and it makes a ton of noise when someone tries to push through it. This allowed the enemy team to hear you, identify your location, and especially if they have a trap wire on there along with the cage, you'd be a super easy target and Cypher could demolish your push. The combined slow from his trap wires plus the cage was really annoying to deal with, and by the time you popped out, Cypher has probably eliminated some of your team and his teammates have probably rotated in and you are kind of screwed. To add on to that, Cypher's camera has also changed, so when it gets destroyed you have to wait 45 seconds instead of 30 seconds to use it again. This is a really good change as most players would just pop an aggressive camera right at the start of the round to get information, and this makes the enemy scared to push, and while they're busy thinking about their next move, bam, Cypher's camera was already up again. This change is going to force Cypher to strategically place their camera in a more defensive and hidden spot so that it doesn't get destroyed, and with that 45-second wait, he won't be able to use it pretty much for the rest of the round. Alright, last but not least, Omen. Omen smokes have essentially been buffed, lasting 15 seconds now instead of 12, along with appearing faster on the map with the increased projectile speed. It looks like they do want him to play more of a brimstone kind of role, and I think this will definitely help him do that with the smokes. Originally, it just took too long for him to cast his 2 smokes, and by that time that the first one was casted, the enemy could already see it and could already set up a rotate to counter your push. Hopefully with this change, it will allow Omen to be more useful, allowing him to more effectively set up those smokes quicker and allow his team to push with it. Alright, if the agent updates were not enough to tickle those jimmies, we're going to go into the ability costs that definitely will. These are some huge changes, the biggest change probably being Sage's barrier orb that has now increased from 300 credits to 400 credits. I do think this is a fair change though, being able to purchase a ghost that can one tap at the pistol round, plus having that barrier orb that just makes it so hard for the pistol to push through. It can pretty much completely stop a push, and Sage still has the ability to one tap with that ghost, and this overall just makes Sage just a tough agent to face during the pistol rounds. Despite the recent nerfs to the wall, it still holds very strong against pistols, SMGs, and sniper rifles, and I think this credit change is more appropriate rather than trying to nerf the barrier health even further and making it useless overall. Sage players will now have to think more strategically about their barrier placement and will have to make a choice occasionally of purchasing stronger weaponry and armor, or choosing to purchase the barrier to delay more and sacrificing that equipment. Alright, that's probably the biggest one, but we are going to go through the remaining changes to the ability credits. Raze's blast pack has also increased from 100 to 200 credits. This is a pretty big deal as well. If you've seen the top streamers like Hiko, they abuse these blast packs a lot to prevent an enemy from pushing a choke point. Along with that, they do a ton of damage, thus weakening the enemy players and allowing you to then spray them down easily with your weaponry. Again, this change will force players to be a little more strategic on when they want to use the packs, whether it's to do chip damage or to boost Raze up for her ult or to boost onto her platform. Phoenix's curveball has also increased from 100 to 200 credits, which I believe is also fair. The flashbangs are super strong in this game and hard to counter, so this extra cost will force players to have to reconsider their credits more when choosing the best spots to use this ability to get the most bang for your buck. There are also 2 other changes, with Brimstone's Incendiary going up from 200 to 300 credits, as well as Jett's Upraft going from 200 to 100 credits. Personally, I haven't seen these abilities being used with very high impact. Jett's nerf will likely make her play even more aggressively than she already is, which I'm not super happy about, but Brimstone's Molotov is definitely very strong and makes for a ton of damage to be dealt. Players need to consider using it more, as it does so much damage and pretty much can single-handedly stop a push. You can see it in this clip. I actually do a ton of chip damage with it as the enemy team tries to full rush B, which stalls time from her teammates, gets me a frag, and also allows me to get more multi-kills since their HP is already so low. Alright, we are moving into the biggest change that has happened with this update. The max credit cap has now been reduced from 12,000 to 9,000 credits. Essentially, this change is to stop a team that's dominating from dominating for the entire half without getting punished for it. If you string a bunch of rounds together at the beginning of the half, your economy is just so high that the enemy team has to win multiple rounds in a row to even try to break it. If you've been on a huge 5 to 6 win streak, you're pretty much set for the remainder of the half. With this nerf, teams that are doing really well do have a chance of slipping up on their economy and having it broken within 2 to 3 rounds, which allows the enemy team to punish you for those one too many mistakes that you made to lose those rounds, which then forces you onto an eco and then having them rewarded an additional round for their efforts. Alright, this is a pretty interesting change from Riot. We're going to talk about the machine guns. It looks like Riot really wants to make these weapons viable, despite them being memed in practically every game they're in. Fair enough though, they're trying to switch things up, and with this they made changes to the Ares, dropping it to 1600 credits and giving it less firing error, which means that your bullets are going to be a little more accurate. They've also decreased horizontal recoil after the first 8 bullets for both the Ares and Odin, again increasing that accuracy, which may potentially make them an option depending on your situation. I think the rifles are still going to thrive despite this change, but I can definitely see the Ares being a challenger to the Spectre that most players purchase after the pistol round, and now that the price has dropped down, I will definitely be testing it out myself as well to see which weapon I like better. In my opinion though, the Odin will still be a meme weapon. Alright, those are the big changes that I want to talk about and are definitely worthwhile to note so you can change the way you play and improve your gameplay on Valorant. If you want to read more, make sure to check the full patch notes to get a full summary of all the changes that happened. If this video helped you out, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below on what you thought the biggest changes were for this patch notes. I'll see you guys later. Peace.